Voila, Chatroom's on.
Chatroom, what's it all about?
It's a thing.
A start.
Morality. Is there still any left?
Life is about choices.
Everyone has an opinion.
Debate is always good. Let's chat about it. A start.
Yanbingelela nonke makhaya and welcome to the chat room. In South Africa, the gap between the wealthy and the poor is very big. As a means to survive, many see the loopholes in the system and thus taking advantage of them. Some claim they're not only doing this because they are cheating, but only to survive, as job opportunities are scarce and those that do work find it difficult to support their families. So the question is survival the only reason why people lean to corruption, or is it simply selfishness and greed that causes people to cheat the system? Namhlanje, we're asking the question, how do we reverse the culture of cheating the system? I mean, I'm talking about things like illegal electricity connections, paying equal drink to police officers, taking out ijojo and testing for a driver's license, or even buying itulas, stolen items. These are some of the items used when engaging in illegal or corrupt activities. Many of us have ourselves, in one way or the other, cheated the system. Now, does this mean that South Africa is fast becoming a country that turns a blind eye to corrupt behavior? Well, it's been reported that corruption and fraud cost South Africans an estimate of 100 billion each year. Now, the Chatroom team took out to the streets to find out views of ordinary people and find out what they think about cheating the system. This is what they had to say. Take a look.
Chatroom's on.
Let's chat about it. A start.
Mina ngiyaphila ngalendlela engiphila ngayo. Whatever mhlambe mangithola into ethengiswayo less ufike umuntu athi yangithengisela and ngithola ukuthi story yadura. I go for it ngoba anginamali. Ugovernment yena uyaprovide kodwa isikweletu enginaso se-electric right now it's about 16,000 le enganayo mina ebank. So khona abantu abahambayo la bathi mama ngikutsipele kancane ugesi uzobhadala lesi uzohamba kancane. I go for it ngiyamnika uyangitsipela ngiyambhadala. Lento ingastopjwa ukuthi sithole imisebenzi right sithole nomholo right then izostop I think, but njengoba kungekho umsebenzi silambile sonke angeke iphele.
I remember neritwa at a party and then we were drunk and then rakopanale maponesa and then in order for them not to arrest us we had to bribe them.
Sure. Yeah, I mean i-calling ngingayibhayela bohata bangithola ngiplomile ngisinkawozela izole bagcina bafuna something azange bangithathe.
As much as corruption in parliament things so rona awuna twi tlohlula I understand.
One day I was traveling with my friend Palisa in Mpumalanga and we passed the stop sign. So the traffic cop was coming our way, so we didn't know what to do. But obviously Palisa talked to them and then she had to pop out something. I don't know what they talked about, but she popped out something. You can ask her.
What do you think when we talked about?
I think bribery or something. I think she gave them 20 rand.
So what makes you think it was corruption?
It's corruption. That's
we
corruption
just
because
talked, so it was an agreement between two people.
But I know you gave them money, my friend.
Well, you heard it from ordinary South Africans expressing their views, so sit tight, we'll be right back.
Debate is always good. Let's chat about it. A start. Debate is always good. Let's chat about it. A start.
Welcome back to the chat room. We're talking corruption today, and the question we're asking is, how do we reverse the culture of cheating the system? Joining us in studio today is Uma Rose, who you saw in the insert before the break, as well as Umuzi Ramalope and Corne Borman. They too admit that they've cheated the system before. Also joining us, our panel of experts, Corruption Watch, Kavicha Pillay, and Mr. Ronald Minwe. Also joining us is Guru Jay Naido from Omsri, Kumaraya, Namah, Ashram, and Mandir. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us on the chat room.
Thank you.
Muzi kunjani puto?
Ngiyaphila sis.
Ngiyaphila. Before the break is bone stories ka Mam Rose explaining to us her reasons why achita system. Now, you agree with her. Why you agree ukuthi sometimes as umuntu you have to cheat the system?
Yeah, sometimes ungazuyenza lento ngoba isimo somnotho saselokishini kusuka kunzima sisi. Asiyenzi ngoba sithanda ukuthi sesichite ugesi ora wona amanzi.
So when isimo sakho sime kanjani eniyiphi le system oyichithayo?
Mina isimo sami ekhaya ngebreadwinner sisi.
Okay. Uyasebenza?
Cha ngisebenza ngumuntu ama-piece job unyana ngihamba ama-piece job ngibiza umuntu afuna simenzele something bese sazenza ukupendela umuntu.
So as a result uzithola wenzani?
Gcina sengifuna umuntu owaziyo ugesi afika athi mfethu ngakulungisela mina ugesi as long as unginika something ugesi wakho uhlala ugijima. Nama ngibuya kuphanda la ngiphanda khona kunama-piece job ngizovuma ngenzele ngimnike lawo masenti ngoba nawo zamele abakhe abantwana.
Okay. So Musi doesn't have a full-time job. He's a part-time employee. Sometimes he has a job, sometimes he doesn't. He's the breadwinner in his family. And he finds himself having to speak to the guys and help him sort out his electricity connection because he actually won't be able to afford it should he let it run normally. So that's basically, I mean, he says he doesn't like it, but his situation forces him to do that. Corne, you say you found yourself in a similar situation somehow, and you kind of understand why some people say, look, we're not doing this because we're just thieves. It's situations and circumstances that force us to do that. Have you found yourself cheating the system before?
Yes, you know, I think corruption is stuff that other people do. You know, when you do it yourself, it's not that bad. I think, you know, no one is innocent, you know. We all do it at some time, whether it's a cold drink or whether it is bigger stuff, you know, but someone else's stuff is always bigger than yours. So.
But when you do it, what are your reasons for doing it? I mean, why give a cold drink?
Well, the thing is, I forget to pay the fines. So I'd rather sort it out then, you know. But yeah, that is one of the reasons. I don't think, it's usually fines or for me, I would never do something that would be to the detriment of someone else. I think if you do something that is corrupt or stealing or cheating for that matter, and someone else suffers through your actions, that is but it's a grey line.
So you feel you can cheat the system for as long as it's not to the detriment of someone else?
Well, it's not that I think it's right, but and I think it's a situation of both sides. If there wasn't the opportunity, then I most probably wouldn't take it. But if someone stands around and they say, hey, if you've got a cold drink there, what is that cold drink for? Then
you go shop. Here's the cold drink.
I didn't ask him to not give me a fine. I just gave him the cold drink.
Guru, you've heard the different reasons why people find themselves cheating the system. What is your take on that from a spiritual level? I mean, it seems very innocent at times, and at times it's based on circumstance. Should that be okay?
Well, it is circumstances that they find themselves in, but it's not okay. It's not okay in the sense that we are supposed to have our values, our basic values of right conduct, right wealth, right desire, and right exit from this world. So when we have right conduct, that's where spirituality comes in and the foundation is built. There's a foundation that we grow up with. And these, the guests find themselves in this situation. Yes, it's because of our economic system, of capitalism, that we find ourselves in this position. But we still have to come to basics. We have to get to basics before we can eradicate all this.
Mama Rose, do you believe ukuthi lento yenza corruption?
Ngiyazi ukuthi corruption.
Oh, yazi ukuthi corruption.
Kodwa ayikho into engayenza. Ngihola ipension. Nginama grandchildren ayi3 baku high school. Manje uma ngitholakala ukuthi umuntu uqhamuka mhlambe nejezi lesikolo uthi mama esitoro li 130 athi mama unayi 70 rand nanti ijezi ngiliphethe ngizolithenga ngoba ngihola le mali yepension and anginayo enye income ngaphandle kwale mali yepension.
So in a situation like that, what does one do? And I'm sure, Guru, you can help us here. The whole values thing and just as human beings, how we should behave in situations like that. I'm a pensioner. I look after my grandchildren. Somebody comes with the school jersey and says to me, it's $70. At the shops, you'll get it for 130. Should I then not buy it because my assumption is... or maybe not even just an assumption, because you know, he's not a manufacturer of these jerseys, so chances are he got them illegally. But at that moment, my grandchildren can have a school jersey that they would otherwise not have because I can't afford the $130. Should you leave it?
Well, it's a very fine line. It's a razor edge.
I know, and that's the razor edge that I think we all need, because it's a very fine line. So, I mean, how do I know at which side of the line am I sitting at, this fine line? Does that make it okay?
It does not make it okay.
But then can I do it still? Because of my circumstance?
And that's the razor edge we're looking at. You either fall either side of that razor. One is wrong and one is right.
Corruption Watch, I mean, that sounds like, what do you guys actually do?
Well, basically, we launched last year in January 2012, and we encouraged the public to report corruption to us, and we utilized those reports to hold those who are the leaders to account, you know, and we also use these reports to identify hotspots of corruption. So we fight corruption in the public sector, you know, and we're trying to promote an accountable and transparent government and an accountable country where, you know, corruption is taking over, you know, in everything, and we want to sort of eradicate this problem.
Mr. Minre, I want to know, surely if you are buying, you're not paying for that traffic fine, you are not going to the store to buy the school jersey, you're not paying Eskom and electricity prices keep on going up because someone is tweaking it, lapha in the electricity box. How does this affect our economy in the long run?
Well, it affects our economy in a very big way, because when you look at how corruption happens, it's always someone in power, and that person, actually, it has a ripple effect. So when if you don't want to pay your electricity, it means that Eskom is going to suffer. So if a whole lot of us are going to say we're going to buy electricity, back doors, it means that Eskom is going to suffer, and that is going to affect even the poorer people even more.
So in the dark because I don't afford.
Most importantly, we must try to do the right thing, because in most cases, as I say, I would like to focus on the people with resources. Because if someone is going to come to tempt me from Eskom saying, I can bridge electricity for you, I want to focus on that person, because that person is tempting me, because this person knows I'm vulnerable, I do not have the means to pay my electricity, instead of guiding me on how to follow the right procedures. Because we always have systems in our country to say, I cannot afford, then you go to municipal offices, maybe there's an arrangement that can be made.
Have you tried that? Have you tried that? To go to municipal office and say, good night, King I am, can we work out some kind of an arrangement? Or vele wathi nje ozamfana uzongisort out.
Cha ngayizami leyo.
Why?
Ayikafika emqondweni kimi.
Okay. Kufike nje ukuthi ngilungise le nkinga enguyo manje.
Ngidumele nje ngikhohle.
Okay. Okay, well, we continue with that discussion after the break. You can send us your SMSs, Kulman Nati Futi on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll be right back.
Debate is always good. Let's chat about it. Start. Debate is always good. Let's chat about it. Start.
Welcome back to the chat room. Before the break, we had a lengthy discussion with our studio guests about corruption and how we can reverse the culture of cheating the system. Now we continue with this discussion and we're trying to find solutions in which we can curb this problem. So, mina ngifuna ukwazi Mam Rose, ne? You mentioned ukuthi you know ukuthi lento yenza corruption, awuyithandi obviously. What do you think the solution is so that we don't live in a society where we kind of now start thinking ukuthi it's normal ukuthi uzothola izinto nge-back door because it is what it is?
I-solution ukuthi nje u-government mayengavula amathuba emsebenzi for ama-youngsters ethu njengalabantwana abaphuma ey'kolweni, then ngibona ngazathi kuzoba ngcono ngoba njengabazukulu bami nje mabengaqeda isikolo immediately mabesithola isikolo bawuthola umsebenzi, then bangangisupporta bakhona ukuthi bangixhase ukubhadala zonke lezi zinto engifisa ukuyibhadala. I-solution nje ukuthi makuvuleke ama-channel somsebenzi.
Okay. Muzi, wena ucabanga kanjani? What do you think is the solution going forward? Because the reality of the fact, as Ubudminwe said, ukuthi kune-ripple effect yalento yenzayo, yabo? Because when ubridge electricity, our prices were Eskom ayakhuphuka, nami nginenkinga zami kodwa mina kuzomela ngibhadale, or whoever else who's not bridging electricity. So yabona ukuthi we're not really helping the situation. Maybe uzinceda wena manje, but in the long run, abanye abaningi abafana nawo bayahlupheka even more because bayobhadala more as a result of more people not paying. So what do you think the way forward is so that Tina as abantu we can realize that yes, maybe it may benefit me now, any benefit in that pela, but what does it do in the long run?
Ngamba phezulu amagama kaMama Rose. Uright noma government wethu bangayenza ukuthi kube namathuba omsebenzi for ukuthi baningi abantu elokishini bahleli mama. Banabo grade 12 abanye abane-certificate bafundile bakwenzile ama-call center bahleli lokishini. Government akabasizi ngalutho labantu. Ukuthi na ukuthi azabasiziswa kuze kube kunanto zejojo kanti ukuthi bayazenza nabo ukuthi uzothola umsebenzi omunye umuntu ukufuna imali ukuthi uzwama ungene college bakuthe ukuthi ama-agent akufune 750 uzoyithatha apho ni-750 kumanje uselokishini. Yena uyo government umele nje ayenza ukuthi kube namathuba omsebenzi entweni ezizulu mawuqeda ukuphuma esikoleni sento kube uyo uzokuqhaza ukuthi uthole umsebenzi lapho into eziningi zokuchitha ziyayehla egovernmentini nasekumphakathi.
Cornelius, what do you think is the way forward in terms of how do you think South Africans should see or perceive cheating the system or corruption so that things can change?
I think everything is a chain reaction, and you need to look at the complete, every link, okay? So in a situation that, like I was explaining, there's a link between the person that overstepped the speed limit or whatever, or not wearing a safety belt, whatever the case may be, and the person taking the money. So every link needs to be looked at and see how it can be broken. If a link is broken, then it won't go on to the next link. The other part is, if I do get a fine now and I don't pay it, that would be the next link. So if I say, okay, this officer did not want to take my money, he actually gave me a bigger fine because I offered him a Coke, and I don't pay the fine, what is going to happen next? If nothing happens, then I can save some money on Coke. And eventually, you know, if you do get your fine, then you can maybe, there's someone sitting at a desk that can say, okay, if I pay the money, then I get half off. So that would be the next link. And these things go right to the top and right to the bottom.
Yeah, true.
So unfortunately, and I think you cannot focus on everything. You must start small, and because everyone thinks, listen, let's look at the big fish, but collectively the small fish does more damage. So yeah, if I did not have, if it wasn't that easy, believe me, I would not have done it. Okay.
It's true.
And it's small things, you know. I see it as small, but every 100 rand, 200 rand, if I overstep rules, next time I drive 160, or I can kill someone. Then it's not so small anymore.
It's true. Whether it's the big fish or the small fish, it's still corruption, and it affects the economy and affects us as a society in the long run. Guru, what would you say to South Africans about the way we see these little petty things. I don't even think most of us consider them as corruption. I mean, the word corruption is for the big boys. When a tender is awarded to somebody for X amount and only like 1,000 rand of the work has been done, worth of the work has been done. How should we perceive the little things that we don't consider as corruption?
Well, they still corruption, and like you said, we only think about the big boys that have tender opportunities, but there's that small basic value that we have in us, that if all of us create a small mistake, it has that ripple effect, as my colleague has said. But we must realize, from a spiritual point of view, what you do today comes back to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Mr. Minwe, in closing, what would your plea to South Africa be regarding this topic?
My fellow panelists, Mona Babulala, the way corruption affects and end up being involved in corruption, corrupt activities, because from as little as a catering business, if I'm in power, and I'll go back there again, if I'm in power, when I say I'm in power, I mean I've got access to resources, access to information. If I'm the one who's responsible for procurement at SABC for catering, and I make sure that this catering business just circulate amongst my friends, my family, people that know me, and there are people who say, but here we are, we've got skills, we cannot access these things. It's very painful. It's very painful, and it's a plea to some fellow South Africans to say, let us move away from there and put all these things on a public domain, so that people can access them, and then when people access that, surely there'll be a change, even if no matter how minute that might be, but there'll be a change because now there'll be people who will look at government differently, people will look at businesses differently. At least they're trying to assist us. So I think that's very important. Based on the campaigns that we do at Corruption Watch, we also like to engage young people, because we think we must change the attitude of the young ones from primary school level, where they are being taught about rights and responsibilities, and given an option to say, if something is wrong, it's wrong. If something is right, it's right, and we must learn to complement that. So it's very important that we engage young people in our programs, and then we talk to them so that maybe they will become a better generation when we're no longer in this world.
No, thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I wish you all the best of luck, and I'm hoping, Uguti, your perception about the situation can change today, guys. Thank you so much. Well, a very interesting discussion, and this discussion continues on Twitter as well as on Facebook. Please do remember that it is your responsibility as a South African to make a difference to this country. So, bonana fute vigine landelayo from me, Sarah Thabethe, and the rest of the Chatroom team. Goodbye and God bless.